Hi everyone, this is Jen Schultz and I'm here with a quick video on how to create a fun watercolor scene as a background using some Tim Holtz Distress Inks, and we're going to be using some unusual colors in the background to give it kind of a night sky, spooky Halloween look. We're going to start with some Tailored Expressions watercolor paper cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And right now I'm taping it down with some low tack painter's tape to a piece of hardboard panel, which is basically just pressed particle board to keep the paper straight and keep it nice and flat while I'm painting. I'm going to be using some different distress inks, and I'm going to drip them out onto just an acrylic block to use as a paint palette. I'm using Chipped Sapphire, Dusty Concord, Vintage Photo, and Black Soot ink, and as you can see I'm just dropping very small dots out onto the plastic, and then I'm going to grab a number 10 round paintbrush. This one's from Grumbacher, and I'm going to take some clean water and I'm just going to dilute that paint down just a little bit because it's pretty thick to start with. And so I'm going to go through each color and I'm just going to mix in some water into the ink so that it's not quite so dark when I put it on the paper. And I'm cleaning the brush in between each color. Now right now I'm adding just a little bit of the black soot to the Vintage Photo because for the ground color I don't actually want it to be brown or black. I want it to be kind of a brownish gray color, so I'm going to mix those two together. Now I'm moving on to the purple and blue and adding some water to those. You can always mix any colors of distress inks together to make millions and millions of different custom colors, so don't be limited by just the inks that you have. And of course, if you don't have the refills, you can always just smoosh out some ink from your ink pads. So to start the ground, I'm just using horizontal motions, going back and forth, kind of zigzagging a little bit and creating the ground. And you can see how as I go, it gradually lightens up. Now I'm just going to go back in and kind of dab on some more darker ink to give it a little bit of varied color selection. And I've added some black soot back in there as well, just to let it kind of flow and bleed out a little bit so that it is more like the ground. Now I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to grab some of the purple paint and start making the sky. And as you can see, I started away from the ground a little bit and then I very carefully went up next to it, and that's so I can kind of control how much those two bleed together. The ground ink will blend up a little bit into the sky, and that's fine. So now you can see I did the same technique, just kind of roughly filling things in. And now I'm going to go grab some more ink and do the same thing I did with the ground. I'm just going to dab on some darker colors to put some variety into the sky. I'm going to add some black in there, and I'm going to add a little of the Chipped Sapphire. I'm just letting the colors blend together on the paper. You want to be careful how much water you have in your brush, otherwise it'll start to make giant puddles on your paper. So as you clean out your brush between colors, make sure you blot it on a paper towel. You can see mine's a little bit wetter than I would like it to be, but it's working out okay. So just kind of keep doing that, adding different colors until you get something that you're happy with. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is clean out my brush completely and drip some clean water onto the ink. And this is going to cause some lighter spots on there, and then they're called blooms. And I like those for this particular sky scene. So I'm just going to leave it on there. Now I'm drying my paintbrush. I had a big giant puddle up there at the top, so I'm going to dry my paintbrush and pick that up. And then I'm going to use my heat gun to set this. You can let it dry on its own, and it will come out maybe even a little bit better than it does if you heat set it, but for the sake of time, I went ahead and heat set it. Now I'm going to use a number 4 round Grumbacher brush, and I'm going to sprinkle some water on here. When you do the water sprinkling, you want to use a small paintbrush. I've learned the hard way that the bigger ones make a big giant mess and water flies everywhere. So make sure you use a smaller one, works better. So then I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to blot up my water, and it's going to leave some white speckles in there. I'm going to go back again and do it again with, again, just clean water, and tap as you go, and it'll put little droplets on there, and the droplets will lift off the paint so you get some colored speckles. Now we're going to go back in and put some dark speckles in, so I'm going to grab a little bit of the Dusty Concord and the Chipped Sapphire and mix them together, and then I'm going to drop that in, and I'm going to try to keep it in the sky. If you use a smaller paintbrush, it's easier to control where the drops are going. Now, and if you hold it straight up and down like that, it kind of flings a little bit more. If you hold your paintbrush to the side like this, it will be a little neater when you put your drops on there. So once I get that all finished, I'm going to use a heat gun to dry those up, and then the background scene will be mostly finished. This type of background scene, you can use any colors that you want to create all kinds of backgrounds. You could create a sunset this way or a sunrise. You could do some nice blues and a grass. You could do a beach with some golden ground color and some blue in the top. So now I'm going to take my paint off, and I'm going to die cut the background using stitched rectangle stacklets from Tailored Expressions. And I'm going to tape this down real quick before I head over to the die cut machine and cut it out. And when I come back, it'll be sized down for the perfect size for my background. Alright, so now that's die cut. I'm going to go ahead and take this out of the die, and I'm going to move on and show you the rest of the steps of the card here with the stamps that we're going to use. But the background is ready to go. It's all set. So there's the background from earlier, and I'm going to be using Critters in Costume from Tailored Expressions, and I'm going to stamp that using some Oreo hybrid ink from Tailored Expressions. I'm going to stamp it onto sugar cube cardstock. Get this inked up real quick, and stamp that onto the sugar cube, and then I'm going to color it with Copic markers, and I have one that's pre-colored already, because it did take me a while to get this colored up, and that would make for an awfully long video. So I'm going to jump over to the one that I have pre-colored after I show you. I did die cut this with the coordinating die, so I'm going to grab that and I'm going to tack it down with a little bit of washi tape so it stays in place in the die cut machine. And I usually do this. If you see here, the openings they just fit to the edges of the image, and I can get it all lined up and then just take my piece of tape and stick it down, and then it's ready to go through the die cut machine. Alright, so there I have the already finished and already colored image. It's ready to go in the middle of the card. So now I'm going to die cut some spooky clouds, and I'm going to use a stitched circle stacklet on some potato chip to make the moon, and then I cut the clouds out of sugar cube. So there are all the pieces. I'm going to set those off to the side, and we're going to go back to our background, and we're going to stamp the sentiment. I use the Happy Halloween sentiment, so I'm going to line it up on a clear plastic or clear acrylic block, and then stamp it over the ground, towards the bottom of the ground, using Oreo ink. And you can see I used the lines on the clear plastic block or clear acrylic block to get my sentiment straight, and then I can align those with the bottom of my background, and everything will be nice and straight when I stamp it. So I'm going to lay everything out. I'm going to put the cat and the pumpkins in the center of the card, and the moon. I'm going to overlap it with one of the bigger clouds, and then I'm going to put another cloud in the background real quick. When I glue these down, I'm going to put some foam tape behind the pumpkin and behind the moon. I'm using the thin scrapbook adhesive squares. I like those because they're nice and thin. Make it so that it's easy to still mail a card. It doesn't get too thick. So I'm going to take the backing off here real quick, and then I'm going to center this above the sentiment and go ahead and tack it down real quick. For the clouds, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to glue down the cloud to the moon so that they're all one piece, and then I'm going to attach those also with foam tape. I like to use liquid adhesive for this kind of thing. I'm not very good with tape adhesive, and I don't have a sticker machine. I wish I did, to help make some of those smaller pieces a little bit easier to glue down, so I stick with liquid glue. I've got the foam tape on the back, and I'm going to peel off the backing real quick and add that to the sky right up there in the upper left hand corner. Then I'm going to grab the other cloud, and I'm just going to apply some liquid glue to the back of that and attach it to the background. Alright, now I'm going to mat this piece on a pre-cut piece of plum punch cardstock, and I'm just going to use my liquid adhesive again to tack this down. I never have any luck with tape runners. They always end up peeling off. There must be a high humidity level in our house, so I pretty much stick to liquid glue whenever I can because I know it's not coming off. Then I'm going to use an Oreo card base, and then I'm going to pop the whole card up on the scene up on some foam dots and peel the backing off real quick and attach it to the card base. And then I will be all finished and the card's all done. Now we have a nice cute little Halloween scene all ready to go. I hope you'll give these watercolor tricks a try. Thanks so much for watching.